Today we're going to tackle a front-end mentor challenge and build this rock, paper, scissors game. If you don't know who I am, I'm Jesse and I create web development related content all over the internet, including here on YouTube. A like is greatly appreciated and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. This video is sponsored by Embold. Embold is a static code generator that helps developers analyze and improve their code by finding issues and helping you to write cleaner code faster. Do you think static code analysis tools are useful? Let me know in the comments. Embold identifies the most problematic components in your code so that you know exactly where and how to start your fixes. It can find critical vulnerabilities such as memory leaks, duplication of code, and hard to detect anti-patterns, and it supports many different languages. For a limited time, you can analyze up to 100,000 lines of code for free. All you have to do is link your repository, let Embold scan your code, and you'll get a full report, smart heat maps, and task and issue management. Check out the link in the description to try it out, and I'll show you how to use the platform in more detail at the end of the project. So be sure to stick around to the end. So like I mentioned before, we're going to take on a challenge from Frontend Mentor. If you're not familiar with the Frontend Mentor site, they have all kinds of great challenges that will help you hone your developer skills. And there are challenges for every skill level. Here's the one that we're going to do today. I've already downloaded all of the assets, so let's check those out. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. We have our style guide. This is going to give us everything that we need to create our design. So we have our mobile layout, our desktop layout, colors, our primaries, scissor gradient, paper gradient, and the fonts that we're going to use. So we'll be coming back to reference this. And we have our index.html, which has some basic stuff in here for us. We've got our title. There's some styles in here, which will move out. And then there is this attribution footer tag. All right. And then in our images, we have all of the images that we'll be using. And looks like most of these are SVGs, so that's nice. And then in our design, we can look at original, and we've got what it should look like. So we have some reference here. So we'll start out like this. And then when we pick one, it'll show what we picked. And then the next step, it'll show what the house picked. And then it'll tell us whether we lose. And we've got this little gradient coming out. These shadows coming out, and then if we win, same thing, and then we are able to play again. We also have a rules modal, so if we type rules, it will tell us the rules here. And then there is also a mobile version, and we're just going to be styling the desktop version in this video. If you want me to build out the mobile version, let me know in the comments below. There's also a bonus version, Rock, Paper, Scissors, Lizard, Spock. If you're not familiar with this version of the game, it's from The Big Bang Theory, so check that out. There's a link to the video in the description. And here are the rules, quite complicated. So if you want to see me build this one out, let me know in the comments below. All right, let's get started with the HTML. So we'll go to our index.html and let's clean this up. So we can get rid of these comments. We'll just leave that favicon there. These are all of the words that we'll be using. We'll just get rid of that for now. We don't need it. And then these styles, we're going to move these into a CSS file. So I'm going to just cut those out. I'll get rid of the style there. And let's go ahead and create that file. So here in our root directory, we'll create styles.css. And let's go ahead and paste those in there. All right, and go back over here. We'll add our link to our styles. So that is going to be styles.css. And then let's just go ahead and add our app.js file, which we'll be using in the future. Move that over there. And let's go ahead and link to that as well. So we'll say script, and that is going to have a source of app.js, and we're going to defer it so that it runs after the page loads. All right, so now that we have that cleaned up, let's get started writing some HTML. All right, so the first thing we'll do in here in the body is we're going to add a div with the class of container. And then inside the container, we're going to have our header. We'll start with that. So it's going to be a header with the class of header. And then inside the header, let's add an image. And it's going to have a class of logo. In the source, we can go to images. So this was provided to us, and it is going to be logo.svg. In the alt, we'll just say logo. And then after that, we need our score. So we'll have a div with a class of score. And then within that, we can have a div with the class of score title. And within there, it will say score. And then another div with the class of score number. And let's just go ahead and put a placeholder in here. We'll say 12. Save that. And now I have this running already using a live server. So right here, we have it running. And now we have rock, paper, scissors. We have our score. It looks pretty terrible. So let's get started on some styling for the header part. So over in our CSS, let's go up to the top here and let's go ahead and add some global styles. So I'm just going to paste this in. This is our font. So we're importing the font that was provided to us, and we're only importing the 600 and 700 font weights. Next, we're going to have some variables. So we're going to go ahead and define those from our style sheet. So we're going to have, let's target our root, and we'll have a light text, and that is going to equal white. And then we'll have a dark text. And let's go ahead and open up our styles guide. And let's go through here. We have a dark text. This is HSL. So let's copy that. Next, we'll have our score text. And if we go back to our style guide, we have our score text right there. So we'll copy and paste that. Next, we'll have our outline. Go back to our style guide. Let me just move this over. That might be easier, right? Style guide there. Header outline. Let's copy that. After the header outline, let's see, we've got background gradient. So we'll say background grade 1, right? So let's see, background radial gradient. So we'll take this first one. And then we'll say background gradient 2. And that is going to be the second one for the background. All right, and then let's see what's next. We've got our scissors, paper, rock. So let's do that. So scissors, schizzors. Does that look right? Yeah, okay. 1. So let's go up here. Scissors gradient. All right, and I'm going to fast forward this because I don't want you to watch me copy and paste all of these things. All right, now that I've got all those copied, we can close the style guide for now. And then after that, a couple more resets. We're going to add margin of 0 and padding of 0. And box sizing is going to be border box. All right, some standard resets there. And then in our body, let's set the font family. And that is going to be Barlow Semi Condensed. And we'll have a fallback of sans serif. All right, now we can set our background gradient. So that's going to be a radial gradient. So with a radial gradient, we can specify where we want the gradient to start and then the gradient colors. So we're going to say we want it to start at the top, and then we're going to pass in our variable of bg gradient 1. That's our first color, and then our second color is going to be bg gradient 2. All right, so let's go ahead and save this and check out. So now we see that we've got the gradient, but it's kind of messed up there. So we can fix that, go back into the body, and let's say min height 100 VH. All right, let's save that, go back, and now it looks good. So we're starting it at the top here, and if we go back to our original picture, so let's go to design, original, I think it's this one, yeah. So let's go ahead and just keep this open for now. So here we can see that the gradient, the rings here start at the top. So that's why we're starting ours at the top as well. So we'll go back to ours, and there we go. All right, so now let's style the header. So let's go down here to first the container. So let's say this is main content. And then we'll have our container. And that's going to be a position of relative so that we can absolutely position things inside of it. We're going to have a max width on here of 700 pixels and then a margin 0 on the top and bottom and auto on the left and right. And then we're going to add a little bit of padding on the top. And that's going to be 2 rem. So let's save that and see what we have now. Now we've set our max width of 700, so it's right here in the middle. And just to show you, we could add a border. We'll say 1 pixel solid and white. And then we'll go back over here and you can see here. So it's 700 width and it's margin auto on the left and right, so it's centered. All right, so let's remove that border. Now we can go on to the header. So the header, we're going to display this as flex, and that's going to position the title and the score horizontally. So then we'll justify the content there space between so that they are, space between. So now they are going to be on the left and right. They'll have space between them. And we're going to align the items center. So that's vertically, it's going to center them. And then the height, we're going to set it to 150 pixels. And then we're going to add a border on here of 3 pixels solid. And we have a variable for this, and that is our outline. All right, and then we're going to add a border radius, and that's going to be 20 pixels. And then lastly, we have some padding, and that's going to be 1 rem on the top, 1.4 on the right, 1 rem on the bottom, and then 2 on the left. All right, save that. Let's check it out. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so now let's just compare this again with our example here. So if we look at the logo, let's compare those real quick. So it seems like there's a little more space on ours than there is on this one. It's very close, but I think what we're going to do is we'll go back here and let's add on the logo, logo image. Let's set the height on that to 100%. And that should fix it. Yeah. Okay. So that looks almost exactly the same. All right. So now let's go and style this score here. So we've got score, and let's display this as flex because we have items within the score. We have the title of score, and then we have the number, right? So we'll say flex, and then we're going to say flex direction is going to be column so that they're vertical. And then we're going to align the items center and justify the content center. And then we're going to set the background to white. And then let's see, we're going to add a border radius. We'll set the border radius to 10 pixels. Width is going to be 150 pixels and height is going to be 100%. Let's save that and check it out. That's looking pretty good. The last pieces are going to be this title and then the number. So let's go back to our CSS and we'll say that was score title. And so we'll set the font size to 1.1 rem. Letter spacing is going to be 0.1 em. And then color will be our variable of score text. All right, let's save that. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now, if we go back to our image here, score is all uppercase, and you can see rules is all uppercase. There's a lot of basically everything within this project is all uppercase. So let's go back to our styles, and since everything is, we'll go to the body, and we're going to say text transform, and then uppercase. We'll go back over here, and there we go. So now it's all uppercase. And now let's work on the number. So that is score number. And we're going to set the font size on this to 4 rem. Font weight is going to be 700. And then color, that is going to be the variable of dark text. All right, so let's save that and go back. There we go. All right, so now let's see the image here. Let's compare these. There's too much spacing there. Less spacing. Okay, so let's go to here on the score. Let's do a line height of 1. Right, so that will take down the default line height, reset it to 1, and that looks good. So let's start working on the game component. All right, so back into our HTML file. We're going to stay within our container. So after the header, let's add a section, and it's going to have a class of game. Now within that, we're going to have our buttons for the rock, paper, and scissors. All right, so we'll have a button with the class of choice. We'll say choice button, BTN. And then on this, we're going to add a data attribute, data choice. We'll be able to reference this in the CSS and in the JavaScript. And this is going to be our paper. Now within the button, we're going to have a div with the class of choice and also paper. And then within that, we'll have our image, which is going to have a source. Let's see, that was in images, and then icon paper. There we go. And then for the alt, we'll just say paper. So now we need 3 of these buttons. So this is our paper. Let's select these and then Alt-Shift down arrow twice. We'll duplicate them. And then this one will change from paper to scissors. And then let's see, this is going to be rock. So we'll select those, Control D to select them, and then rock. And then we'll put an uppercase on that one. Okay, so let's see, that should be it. Let's look at, so that's what we have right now. So let's go ahead and style those. Back in our CSS, we'll go, see, after the score, we'll go here. So this is going to be our game. So let's say our game, we'll target our game class. We'll set a position on this of relative so that we can absolutely position things within it. We're going to display it as grid. And then we're going to set some grid template columns. We're going to set it to repeat and 2, 1, FR. If you're not familiar with grid, I've got a video on that on my channel you can check out. We're also going to set grid template areas. And so we're going to set these, I like to just go on a new line here. So we're going to say paper, scissors. And then on the next line, we'll say rock, rock. Okay, and then let's get rid of this colon, semicolon doesn't need to be there. All right, so then we're going to define these in just a bit. Let's go down and add a couple more styles here. We're going to say place items, and that is going to be center. And then height is going to be 30 rem. And padding on the top, we're going to add 4 rem. All right, so now if we go back over here, we're not going to see much. It's not quite working because we haven't defined our areas yet. So let's go ahead and go down and define those. So here we're going to say choice button. All right, so we've defined our choice buttons, right? But we want to select specific ones. So on here, I'm going to say data choice. So this is going to select that data attribute, that data choice attribute on the button. And we're going to say the one that equals paper. We want to define a grid area of paper. All right, so that's how we define that. We're selecting this specific button, and we're going to set the grid area to paper. And this is how it knows paper here equals paper here. So let's go ahead and select this, Alt-Shift down arrow 2 more times. And then we're going to change paper here to scissors. and then rock on this one. And now when we save it, we go back, now it should work. There we go. So now if I pull up our elements inspector here, I'm going to move this to the side and then hover over our grid. Now you can see our grid. We've got these two on the top, and then rock is occupying the two bottom ones. Pretty cool. All right, so let's go back in here. Now let's actually define some things on the choice button. So let's go here. We'll say choice button. And so let's set a border. These are buttons. So we're going to do some resets on these. We're going to say border none. We'll say outline of none. And we'll say background of none. And we're going to say cursor is going to be pointer. All right, so save that and go back. Now we can see all of that is gone. And now let's target each choice. So choice, we're going to add a position on these of relative, and then width is going to be 10 rem, height will be 10 rem, and then a background, we'll set it to white. Border radius is going to be 50%. That's going to give us our circle border. We're going to display these as grid just so that we can easily center the contents, so the images. All we have to do is say display grid and then place items center, and that's going to center it vertically and horizontally. So let's go ahead and save that and let's check it out. There we go. So now everything is in its place. Next, let's work on there's a triangle between these. Let's see, let's go back to our picture. So we've got this triangle in the background. So we actually have an SVG for that. Let's go over here. And we'll go up to the game. So we're going to put that on a pseudo element of the game. So we're going to say game before. We have to set our content. So that's going to be blank. And then we're going to position this absolute. All right, so then we'll say the width is going to be 100%. And then we're going to say height is 100%. Left is going to be 28%. I had to play around with these numbers to make them work. So top is 35%. And then we're going to set our background to our image. So that is going to be URL, and then that is in images, and then triangle, BG triangle. All right, so let's save that, see what we have. So now it's kind of weird. It is placed properly, but we can see some extra ones there. So we can fix that by saying no repeat. Save that. And there we go. Now we are going to run into a little bit of issues once we start adding these rings around. So we're going to go ahead and set a Z index of -1, and that's going to make sure it stays in the background. There we go. All right, so let's work on these outer rings. So if we go back to our picture, we've got these circular rings on the outside. They look like they're on the outside, but they're actually underneath. So let's go back over here. All right, so let's go down to our choice. We're going to add a pseudo element to our choice as well. So we're going to say choice before. And then in this before, again, we'll have to set our content. And then we're going to set our position of absolute. And then left is going to be -15%. Top is going to be -15%. Width is going to be 130%. And then height is going to be 130%. So the way that I got these numbers, well, I played around with it a bit, but 130% seemed to be the right size. So this is 130% of the choice. Choice is our white circle. So 130% of that obviously goes outside of that white circle. And then we have to adjust the left and the top by half of 30, which is 15, right? So then we need to also set our border radius. So that's going to be 50% so that it's a circle. And then again, we'll set our Z index to -1 so that it goes behind. For now, let's just comment this out so that you can see. And so now you're not going to actually see anything yet because we haven't added anything. So let's go ahead and Let's add a background. The background is going to be a linear gradient. And so we're going to say to bottom, it's going to be our direction. And then our variable, we'll start out with our paper. So we'll say paper 1. And then that's our first color. Our second color is going to be our variable of paper 2. And then let's save that. And let's go check it out. So now you can see these circles are covered up, again, because we don't have this Z index. So let's uncomment that, save it, we'll go back, and now it's behind it. All right, so this is the color for the paper. It's a very slight gradient from the top to the bottom. So in order to get all of these separately, we're going to have to select them separately, right? So here, let's go ahead and select our choice. And then our choice that is of paper before. And then let's go ahead and move this background down here. So this is specifically for this paper choice. And now if we save it and we go over here, now we can see just this one has the paper choice. So let's go ahead and select that, duplicate it twice. And this is going to be scissors and rock. All right, and then let's go ahead and change both of these here. Could have done it all at once, scissors, and then rock. Save that, check it out. There we go, nice. Now let's go back to our image. And if we'll zoom in a bit, we can see there's an inner shadow here. And then there is an outer shadow on the bottom here. So let's work on these shadows. So first off, let's set up some shadows. So we're going to go back up here to our variables all the way at the top, and we're going to set a shadow light, and that is going to equal, we're going to use black with an alpha opacity. So this is the same as typing RGBA. We can actually change it here. It's the same as typing RGBA 0.15 basically. I just like these hex numbers better. And then we're going to set a shadow of medium shadow, and that is going to be black with 4D is going to be the opacity on that. So that's the same as RGBA 000.3. Let's go down to our choice. And so choice is our white circle, right? So let's set an inner shadow on this. So it's inset shadow. So it's box shadow. It's going to be inset. We're going to set 0 on the x-axis, 0.5 rem on the y-axis, and then give it our variable of shadow light. All right, let's save that, check it out. There we go. Now we have a very slight shadow on the top. All right, so let's work on the bottom shadow now. So we're going to go down to, since these shadows are different colors, we'll have to go down to our different selectors of paper, scissor, and rock. So in here, we're going to add a box shadow. It's going to be 0 on the x-axis, 0.5 rem, and then variable is going to be our shadow medium. And then we're going to add a second shadow. We're going to layer these shadows. So it's going to be the same 0 and then 0.5 rem. And then this one's going to be our variable of paper. We'll use paper 2, the darker of the two, right? So now let's save that and we'll go check it out. And there we go. Now we have our bottom shadow. So just so you can see the two by themselves, if we just took out the first one, and we only use paper 2, it's going to look a little weird. Like we need some definition to that, right? So then if we go back and we just do the first one, then it's just a dark shadow. We don't really see any color, right? So we're just blending these two together to make it look a little 3D shadowy, right? So let's do the same thing to the others. So we could just copy this, we'll paste it there, and then here we have our shadow medium, all the same. We just need to change these colors. So it's going to be scissors and rock. We'll save that, go back, and there we go. Nice. Now these images, they look a little small. Let's go back to our image. See, they're a lot bigger here. So let's go to choice. We'll go here. We'll say choice and then image. So the image within it, let's do a transform scale, and we'll do 1.5. We'll save that. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. So now these are buttons, and we took away all of the indicators, whether it was selected or active and all of that. We took the outline away. So we need to make these accessible. So if I tab through, it's not showing me that I'm selecting my buttons. So let's go back up here, choice before. We're going to add a choice after as well. And then we'll go just below here. So we want all of these same attributes on our choice after, but then we're going to make some slight alterations. So then we'll say choice after. We're going to set our opacity to 0 initially. We're going to set a transition on the opacity of 0.4 seconds with an ease. All right, and so then we can set some other stuff on here. We'll say choice button. So when the button is focused, then the choice after that is within the button, we can now change our opacity to 1. And then let's add a box shadow to it. So we'll say box shadow of 0, 0, 0 to rem. And then I just pulled this color out of the image. So the first one, 0 is x-axis and then y-axis. And then this one is the blur radius. So 0 blur. And then the fourth one here is a spread. So we want to spread to rem without blurring. All right, so let's also, last thing, let's set our z-index to a -2. We want to make sure that it always stays behind everything. All right, let's save that and go check it out. So now if I tab through, there we go. So now we see this indicator that we are selecting it. When we tab through, we can see it goes to each of them. So now that we have all of that set, let's see, let's work on this footer. Let's get it out of the way. It's kind of in the way right there. So let's work on that next. All right, so let's go back to our index. We've got this attribution section. We are going to wrap this. So here's, let me show you a cool thing. We can select that, and then we'll pull up our command palette, and we can say emit wrap with abbreviation. So now we can enter an emit abbreviation, and it's going to wrap this. So we're going to say, we'll say footer with a class of footer. Spell out footer. And it shows you as you're typing what it's going to do. So we can see it's wrapping that with a footer of the class of footer. Pretty cool. So now let's see. We'll keep all of this coded by. So let's change this to code stacker. And then let's add in our link here, https youtube.com/code stacker. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's go into our styles. We'll go down. I think we had attribution down here. Yep. So let's say this is going to be our footer. So let's target our footer. And we're going to set a position on this of absolute. We're going to set it to the bottom with 2 rem off of the bottom. And then we're going to set a width of 100%. And then we'll set some padding, 0 on the top and bottom, 2 rem on the left and right. And then we're going to text align of center. All right, and then attribution. Let's see, we're going to bump this up to 12. And then we're going to change this color. We're going to change this to my code stacker orange. And we'll save that. Let's check it out. All right, so now it's at the bottom and out of the way. Next, let's look at this rules. Let's go over here and let's zoom back out. So we've got this rules button at the bottom right. We'll work on that next. All right, so let's go back into our index HTML, and we can really put this anywhere. Let's just put it right here. We'll say a button with the class of rules button, and we'll say rules. All right, so let's go to the style. Well, let's look over here. We can see it's over here. It's, you know, it looks pretty terrible. So we'll go to our styles, and then we'll say rules button. So that was rules button. We're going to position this absolute, and we'll set it to the bottom of 2 rem. Right is going to be 2 rem. and background is going to be transparent, right? Or we could set it to none, either way, background, none, transparent, and then get rid of the outline. And we'll set a border, 2 pixels, solid, and we're going to use our variable of outline. And then we'll set a border radius, and that's going to be 0.6 rem. We'll set our color, and that will be our variable of light text. We're going to set padding of 0.6 rem on the top and bottom, 2.5 rem on the left and right. Now we have to set our font family here to inherit, because by default, buttons don't inherit the font family. They also don't inherit the text transform. So we do have to set that to inherit so that it inherits that uppercase font style. All right, we're also going to set our font size to 1.3 rem. And then we're going to set our letter spacing to 0.1 em and set our cursor to pointer. All right, so let's save that, check it out. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now, again, we took away all of the accessibility, so we need to add that back. So we'll go here and we'll say rules button, and then on focus, we're going to set our border of 2 pixels solid, and we'll set it to white. All right, let's save that. So now when I tab through, you'll see that it turns to white, and we can tell that it's been focused. Pretty cool. All right, so when I first go to the page, I want my first tab to go to the rules, I think. Yeah, let's do that. So let me show you how to do that. We'll go back to the buttons, and here we can set the tab index to 1. So now when we go over here and we hit tab, it's always going to go to rules first. Pretty cool. All right, so let's work on the rules modal. So when we click on the button, it's going to pop up this rules modal. All right, so we'll go back to our HTML. We'll just go here after the button, and we're going to set a div of modal. Within that div, we'll have another div of modal container. And then inside that, we'll have a header with the class of modal header. Within that, we'll have an h2 with the class of modal heading. Modal heading. And that's going to say rules. And then after that, we'll have a button, and that'll have a class of close button. So it's going to be an X so that we can close the modal. We'll add an image to this. So the source is going to be images, and then let's see, which one was it? Close, icon close. There we go. And then for the alt, we'll just say close button. All right. So then outside of this header, we'll have our image. So they actually provided an image for us, so we don't have to do this. So it's images, and then it's image rules. There we go. And then for the alt, we'll just say rules image. Okay. So that's it for the HTML there. Let's go to the styles. So we'll just put it here. We'll say rules modal. So that is modal. And we're going to position this absolute. We're going to set the height to 100%. We'll set the width to 100%. We'll set the top to 0, the left to 0. We're going to display this as grid. Place items in the center. We'll set a background, and we'll set that to our variable of shadow medium. So this initial modal here, this is actually going to go across the entire background. So let's go, not this one, let's close that one. Let's go to original, this one, rules modal. Okay, so you can see that this background is darker, and then we have the actual modal, which is white. So what we're working on is this entire background. So we're going to add that medium shadow to make the background darker. All right, and then we're going to set pointer events to none because this is going to actually kind of always be there. It's just not going to be shown, but we want to make sure that there is no interactivity with it when it's not shown, right? So let's also set the opacity. Like I said, it's not going to be shown. For now, we'll set it to 1 so that we can see it. And then we're going to set transition on the opacity 0.3 seconds, and we'll do an ease in out. All right, so then after that, let's set, well, we can save that and actually see that everything is dark, and we kind of see this, doesn't look great. So let's say modal container, and that is going to be a background. So this is the actual modal. So we'll set the background to white. And then we'll set a border radius of 0.5 rem. Save that, go back. So now we can see the actual modal. Cool. All right, so now let's work on the modal header. So modal header displays flex. We're going to do a width of 100%, and we're going to justify content space between, and we're going to set a padding of 2 rem on the top, 2 rem on the left and right, and 1 rem on the bottom. There we go. So now our modal looks pretty good. We got a little bit more to do there. Let's go to our modal heading. So this is the actual text. So modal heading. And we're going to set the font size to 1.5 rem. And we're going to change the color to the variable of dark text. All right, save that. We'll check it out. All right, that looks good. Let's go to the close button. We need to style that. I don't like the outline. So that was the close button. And so for this, again, we're going to say border is going to be none. The outline is going to be none. Background is going to be none. And cursor will be pointer. All right, so that looks good. Now let's style this image. So that is going to be rules image. I think, did I set that? Let me go back here. Image. No, let's actually add a class here of rules image. Okay, now back in here, rules image, we're just going to set a padding on this of 2 rem top and bottom, 4 rem left and right. There we go. So now it's always showing, and it's not going to do anything when we actually click on these buttons. We'll have to add some JavaScript to do that, but it's going to be very easy. So in order to make it hide and show in here, we do need to add a class. We're going to call it show modal. And this is where we're going to set our opacity to 1 and our pointer events to initial. All right, so let's go back up here and let's change this opacity now to 0. So now we shouldn't see it. Now when we click on the rules button, we want to add that show modal class to the modal. So let's go ahead and go into our JavaScript. We haven't done this yet, so it's going to be very easy. We just need to get some DOM elements. So we'll say this is our DOM. We're going to say const button rules is going to equal document.query selector. And we're going to select our rules button. All right, after that, we'll set a const of button close is going to equal document.query selector. And here we're going to target our close button. And lastly, we need our modal. So modal rules, that's going to equal document.query selector. And then let's target our modal. All right, so now we'll say show hide rules. All right, so then we'll say our button rules dot add event listener, click. So when we click it, we want to fire this function. So we'll have an arrow function. All right, and then in the arrow function, all we want to do is say modal rules.classList.toggle, and then we're going to toggle our show modal. So this is going to add the show modal class to our modal. And then almost exactly the same, we're just going to Alt Shift down arrow on that. And then instead of button rules, we're going to say button close, and it's going to toggle the same thing. So this time it's going to remove it. So toggle is going to either add or remove this class. So let's save that and let's go check it out. So now when we click rules, it has a nice fade transition. Then when we click close, it fades back out. Cool. Now, if we didn't have this pointer events none, we would actually be able to click on that close modal button, even though it's opacity of 0. So now when we refresh our page, you can see this modal appears for a second and then fades out. We need to fix that because that doesn't look cool. All right, there's not a great way to fix this, but this is the only way I could find. So on our body, we're going to add a class that is called preload. And then in our CSS, all the way at the bottom here, we're going to add some utilities. So we'll say utilities. We're going to add a preload class here, star. So that selects everything within preload, right? So we're going to say transition none. All right, so initially everything is going to have a transition of none. And then, so now if we go back here, if we refresh, we're not going to see it, but then it's not going to transition either. So it just basically removed all of our transitions. So once the page loads, we want to re-enable those transitions. So we'll do that in JavaScript. So let's go back up here. We'll go to the top here and we'll say prevent animation on load. All right, so let's set a timeout of half a second. And we're going to document.body.classList.remove, and we're going to remove that preload. All right, so let's save that. And then we'll go back here. And now when we refresh, it doesn't show. And when we hit rules, the transition still works. All right, so again, not the best solution. I wish that there was something in CSS that we could use to prevent that, but there is nothing that I know of. All right, so let's now take a look at, so we did this. Let's see what's next. Go back to our images. We did the first step, second step. Okay, so we need to now add some logic in so that when we click something, it now transitions to our results. Okay, so we're going to go into our index again. And let's see, let's go down to just above the modal here. We're going to add another section, and we're going to give this a class of results. And then within that, we'll have an H2 with the class of results, and then heading. And let's actually duplicate that down because we're going to have two headings. So it's going to say you picked. And then this one is going to say the house picked. So I'm just typing everything in lowercase because we're going to manipulate whether it's uppercase or lowercase in CSS. So either way, it doesn't matter. And then after that, we're going to have a div with the class of results, result. So this is going to be the first result. And then let's duplicate that down as well. So we're going to have two results. Basically, we're going to have what you picked and then what the AI or the house picked. All right, so let's style this. We'll go back into our styles and let's go before the modal, rules. Okay, let's go here. So we'll say results, and then we'll say target our results class. This is going to display as grid, and then we're going to have a grid template columns of repeat to 1FR. And then we're going to place our items center. And we're going to give it a grid template areas like we did before. So on this one, we're going to have U title and then AI title. And then after that, we're going to have uPicked and, oops, and AI picked. Okay, let's fix this. Okay, then after that, we're going to set a max width on this of 1000 pixels and a margin of 0 auto. All right, so let's save that and see what we have. So scroll down, we don't really see much, right? You picked, the house picked, but it's kind of laid out okay. So if we go back to our picture, we can see that it stays within that 700 pixels initially. But if we go to our next picture, or step 4, yeah, this one, we see that it goes outside of that 700. So that's why we set the max width of 1000 instead of the 700 that the header is contained within. Okay, so let's go back up here. We're still styling this. So we got you picked, the house picked. We've got a bit more to do. So we'll go back to our styles and let's go ahead and define these areas. So we'll go here, we'll say results heading, and we're going to target the first of type. So the first heading, right, is going to have a grid area called uTitle. All right, and then let's copy this down. And so results heading last of type is going to be AI title, and then result first of type is going to have a grid area of uPicked. And then select these, Alt Shift down, and this is going to be the last of type, and it will be AI picked. So now let's style the heading and the result. So we'll say results heading, and we want to set a font size on both of them at 1.5 rem. We're going to set our letter spacing to 0.1 em, and we're going to set padding of 4 rem on the top, 0 on the left and right, and then 8 rem on the bottom. Let's go to our results and then our result. We're going to set a min width on this of 10 rem and a min height of 10 rem. We'll set a background is going to be color that I pulled out of the image, and then border radius is going to be 50% to make it a circle. So let's save that. And so now if we scroll down, we've got these 2 circles. I don't know if you can see them. If we go back to our image, you can see that there is a circle behind what the AI picked before they pick it, right? So we'll just go ahead and add it to both because you're not going to be able to see it on the one you picked anyway. So we've got those circles. All right, so now let's add some JavaScript. So let's go to, in our DOM, we need to add some stuff in here. So we have const of choices. This is going to be an array of objects, and we're going to use this later on to figure out who won later on, right? So the first object is going to be name, and the name is going to be paper. And it will also have beats. So what does paper beat? Paper beats rock. All right, so then let's select these, Alt Shift down arrow twice. And so then we have scissors, and scissors beats paper. And then we have rock, and rock beats scissors. All right, so we got all that defined. Let's also add another const of choice buttons. So we need to get all of those from the document, from the DOM. So document.querySelector. And this one is going to be query selector all because there's multiple. And so that is going to be our choice button. All right, let's just Alt Shift down arrow a couple of times. We've got some more things to get. So we have our game div. So the entire div that surrounds the initial game portion. And this is just going to be a regular query selector, and it will be class of game. And then next we have our results div. So the entire div that wraps the results. Again, this is just a regular query selector. And then this one is results. All right. And then lastly, we need to get the results div, or the result divs. That might get a little confusing. I should probably rename those. But the divs of the actual results. And that is a query selector all. And that is our results result. So this is going to end up showing us what you picked and what the AI picked. All right, so now let's add in our game logic. So let's say game logic. So first of all, we need to get our choice buttons, and we need to do a for each on each of them and add an event listener. So we'll have our button, we'll have an arrow function. So for each button, we're going to add an event listener of click, and then on click, we will have another arrow function here. We're going to get a const of choice name, and that is going to equal our button.dataset.choice. All right, so again, remember back in our HTML, we have these buttons here, and each button has a data set, data choice. And so it's paper, scissors, or rock. So we're getting that name here, choice name, is going to be either paper, scissor, or rock. And then we'll say const choice is going to equal choices.find. So then in there, we're going to loop through each choice, and we're going to find the one that we selected. So choice.name equals choice name. So now that we have the choice name, we're going to loop through our choices, which is up here, choices array, and we have our choice. We're going to say return to us whichever choice name equals the choice name that we selected. So that is then going to return this object, paper, if we selected paper. It's going to return this object if we selected scissors, and this object if we selected rock. All right, so now that we have the choice along with its name and what it beats, we're now going to send that to a new function. So we're going to say choose, and we're going to pass it our choice. All right, so let's add that function. So let's say function choose, and we're being passed our choice. So what do we do with it? We're going to say const AI choice. So we're going to get what the AI chooses by calling another function. So choose. We'll create that function in just a minute. So then we're going to display our results. And we're going to pass into this function our array of choice and AI choice, right? So what we chose and then what the AI chose is going to be passed into this display results. So let's go ahead and get the AI choice next. So we'll set that function AI choice, or AI choose. So this is just going to get a random choice for the AI. So we're going to say const random is equal to math.floor math.random. So that's going to give us a random floating decimal point. That's why we're flooring it. And then we're going to multiply this by choices.length. This will now give us a number between 0 and 2, which happens to be the indexes of choice. So now all we have to do is return choices and then pass in this random number as the index. Pretty cool. All right, so now we need to work on this display results. So let's go ahead and create that function. Display results, and that is being passed. And we're being passed in here are results, which is an array of 2 results. All right, so let's do this. So we're going to say results, result divs dot for each. So we're going to have our result div and our index. So we'll just say IDX for index. And then we'll have an arrow function here. Actually, this should be in parentheses, and then this parentheses should be down here. Not sure how that got mixed up. All right, so what we're doing is we're looping through our result divs. All right, so back over here in our results, we have two result divs. So we're looping through these two. The first one we know is going to be our result, and the second one will be the AI's result, right? So as we're looping through, we're going to loop through as a set timeout, and we'll set the number on that in just a second. So what we want to do is for each result div, we're going to set the inner HTML. All right, we're going to make that equal to a template string to make it easier on us. All right, so in here, we're going to have a div. The class is going to equal choice. And then we're going to pass in our results with our index dot name. So this is going to pull the name out for each one. And then within that div, we're going to have our image. Image is going to have a source, which was equal to images icon dash, and then we can pass in again our results index name. So let's just go ahead and copy this. We're going to use this multiple times. So we have our name again, .svg. And then we'll set our alt text. It's always great to set our alt text. Again, it's going to be to that name. And then close out our image. And then close out our div. So this is going to loop through both of the result divs. And it's going to add this image, which is exactly the same as, go up here to this button. It is the exact same as what's inside our buttons. So we have a div, the class, image with our image, right? So back here, same thing. So the reason that we're doing this inside of a set timeout is because I want the second result, the AI's result, to not happen right away. So what we can do is we can say the timeout is going to be index times 1000. So 1000 milliseconds is 1 second, right? So the first index is going to be 0. So that will happen right away because 0 times 1000 is 0. The second index is 1. So that will happen after 1 second. So that'll give us a slight delay for the AI to choose. All right, so let's save that, and this should all work. There we go. Let's refresh. So there's nothing there. I'm going to click paper. Paper shows up, and then the AI chose. Perfect. Okay, so that's working, but now we want to obviously hide this one and show this one at certain points, right? So let's go back here. And in our HTML, in our results right here, initially we're going to set this to hidden. And so this is a class that we're actually going to add in here. So in our utilities down here at the bottom, we're going to say hidden is going to have a display of none. And so now if we go back here, this is all that we see. We don't see the results div yet. So in order to bring that back in, we'll go back into our JavaScript here. And then within our display results, so right after our for each, we're going to say game div dot class list dot toggle, and we're going to toggle our hidden class. And then we're going to do the same thing on the results div. All right, so that's going to hide the game div and show the results div. All right, so let's try that out. So now I'm going to select paper, you picked, and then the house picked. Now let's go back to our image. And this is much bigger. So let's go back to our CSS. And we'll go back up to our results and result. Let's go ahead and set a transform of scale, and we're going to set it to 1.5. 4, make it bigger. And then let's also set a z index of -1 to make sure it stays behind everything. And let's try that there. That's much better. And then the text here needs to be white. I'm not sure why that's not inheriting from the body. Body, oh, I didn't set it. Okay, let's go back up here and let's set color is going to be our variable of light text. There we go. So now when we go back, there we go. Much better. Okay, so now we need to know who won, and then we need to have the option to play again. So we'll work on that next. All right, so that is going to be in the middle here. So we'll go back to our image. See step 3. Okay, so step 3, we took care of step 2 and 3 already. So now step 4. All right, so then we have in between these, we have a title or text here, you lose, play again, you win, play again, and then these circles. All right, so let's work on the HTML for this. Go back to our index. So that is going to be in between these results, right, in our grid. So let's add a div here with the class results winner. And initially we're going to make this hidden. Then within this, we'll have an h3 with the class of results text. And then we'll have a button with the class of play again. And we'll say play again. All right, so that should be, yeah, that's it for the HTML there. Let's go to the CSS. And let's see, we'll go down to, where's the rest of our result stuff? Result. Okay, so let's go right here. So let's say result winner. And that is going to equal grid area. And we'll call it result winner. We're going to display inside of this. This is going to be a grid. And then we're going to place items on the center. And then let's say results text. Wait, was it results winner? Results. Yeah, okay. Results winner. Results text is going to be, font size is going to be 3.5 rem. And padding on the bottom will be 1.5 rem. And then we'll do the play button. So play again is going to have a background of white. And outline will be none. Border is going to be 2 pixels solid and transparent. We're doing that because we're going to add back our accessibility in a minute. So we'll set our border radius is going to be 0.6 rem. And then color is going to be our variable of dark text. Padding we'll set to 0.6 rem on the top and bottom, 3.5 on the left and right. Font family, we're going to set that to inherit because, again, this is a button. It doesn't inherit the font family. It also doesn't inherit the text transform. So we'll inherit both of those. We'll set our font size to 1.3 rem, and letter spacing will be 0.1 em, and set the cursor to pointer. All right, and then add back our accessibility. So we'll say play again, focus. We'll set our border to 2 pixels solid, and we'll do the variable of outline. So now we need to be able to show these results because we can't see anything because, again, remember we hid them, right? So let's go result. Oh, I missed a colon there. So what we're going to do, let's go back up here, is we're going to add results and then show winner. All right, so it's hidden right now, but when we add the show winner, we want it to change up a bit. So we're going to say grid template columns is going to be repeat 3 1FR. So currently it's 2, and we're going to want it to repeat 3. And then we're going to change the grid template areas to uTitle. And then we're going to say dot, and then AI title. So the dot references just nothing, just blank, just put a blank there, nothing there. And then on the next line, we'll have you picked result winner and AI picked. All right, so when we add this show winner class to the result, it's going to modify the columns and the areas. All right, so let's make that happen. We'll go back into our JavaScript. We need to add some more things to grab some more things from our DOM. So we'll say const result winner is going to equal document dot query selector, and that is our results and winner. And let's copy that down. So this one is going to be result text. So we need to be able to add in you won or you lose, and it's going to be results text. All right, so now we have these items. Let's go ahead and let's see. So in our choose, when we choose, we're going to display our results, and then we're also going to display winner. So we'll say display winner. Again, we're going to pass it our choice and our AI choice. So then let's go down here to right here. We'll add that function of display winner, and that's being passed our results. So again, we're going to do a set timeout because we want to have this be delayed. So we're just going to delay it for 1 second. And then in here, we're going to get a const of user wins. It's going to equal is winner, and then pass in our results. And then let's Alt Shift down arrow. We're going to see if the AI wins and is winner result. So we're going to create this function in just a second to see who wins. Once we know who wins, then we can figure out what to do. So we'll say if user wins, then we're going to do result text dot inner text, and we're going to make that equal to you win. Okay. All right. So then else if AI wins. So if the AI wins, then let's just copy this. The text is going to say you lose. And then let's do an else. And the inner text then is going to be draw. So it's a tie. All right. And then after that, we're going to say result winner dot class list dot toggle. So we're going to get rid of the hidden class. And then on the results div, we're going to do class list dot toggle, and we're going to toggle show winner. Okay, so basically we're just setting the text, and then we're going to show it. We're going to unhide it, and we're going to add that show winner class. All right, so we need to work on this is winner. So let's go here. Let's say function is winner. It's being passed results. And all we're going to do is return results 0. So the first result in the array, we're going to see if it beats result 1 dot name. So we're going to return if the first result beats the second result dot name, if that's true or false. So it doesn't care which one is first in these results. So the first time that we pass results, your choice will be first and the AI choice will be second. So it's going to compare your choice to the AI's choice. Now on this second one, we want to compare the AI's choice with your choice. So to do that, all we have to do is pass it results reverse. So that is just going to reverse the array, and it's going to pass the AI's choice first and your choice second. And then it will return if the AI beat you. All right, so let's save that and let's give it a try. All right, so I'll pick paper, and you see that it came up straight away, and it's a draw. So actually back in here, let's go ahead and move these up into our set timeout, because we don't want those to display right away like that. All right, so let's refresh this. Let's pick again, and there we go. You win, play again. So now we also want those shadows to show behind whoever won. Go back to our picture here, see these shadows. We want to add these. So we're going to set a winner class on one of them that will display these shadows. So let's go back into our CSS, and we'll go down to, let's go right here. Results winner, results show winner. Okay, let's just go right here. We'll say winner. So we're going to add a winner class to whichever one won. And then within that, we want to say choice after. So we're going to add a box shadow on this. Instead of making you watch me type it, I'm just going to paste it. So this is going to be 3 layers of shadow. First one will have a 40 pixel spread, and I just pulled this color out of the image. The second one will have an 80 pixel spread in a different color, and then 130 pixels in another color. All right, and so then what we can do is go back to, let's save that, and we'll go to our JavaScript. And then if the user wins, let's say result divs 0. So the first result div, which is going to be what you picked, we're going to say class list dot toggle winner. And then let's just copy this, and we'll do the same thing here, except this is going to be the index of 1, which would be the AI's div, and we'll toggle winner there. All right, so let's save that, and let's give that a shot. It doesn't seem to be working. Let's inspect this. All right, it does have winner. And then the before, the after, it did apply it. The opacity is 0. Okay, so we need to change the opacity on that from 0 to 1. Okay, so if we go back into our CSS, let's just do opacity is going to be 1. Save that, and let's give it another try. Let's refresh. We'll pick. And there we go. That kind of came in really fast. Let's tell you what, let's do an animation this time. So instead of doing this opacity 1 here, let's say animation. We'll call it winner. We'll say 1 second ease, and we're going to do forwards so that it stays on the last frame of the animation. All right, so we're going to say keyframes, and we'll call it winner, and then we'll say from, and that's going to be an opacity of 0, and then 2, and opacity of 1. All right, so that should do it. Let's refresh. We'll pick one, And there we go. Nice and slow transition. Let's refresh again. We'll pick another one. Nice. All right. So this is looking pretty good. Now we need to be able to play again. So let's work on that next. All right. So we'll go back into our JavaScript and we can go right here. Actually, we need to get the play button. So let's go up to our DOM and let's say const play again button is going to equal document.query selector. And that is going to be our play again. All right. Now let's go down to, we'll go right here. Now let's say this is play again. So play again button dot add event listener. We're going to listen for our click. And then we'll have an arrow function. And let's say game div. So basically we need to reset everything back to its original state. So game div toggle hidden. So that's going to show the game div. Results div class list toggle hidden. All right, so that's going to hide the results div. And then let's say results div, or no, result divs. We'll do a for each. So each result div will have an arrow function. So we'll say result div dot inner HTML. Well, yeah, inner HTML is going to equal blank. So we'll get rid of those results. And then we're going to say result div dot class list dot remove winner. So it's going to go through both of those. And if they have the winner class, they will be removed. Then after that, let's say result text dot inner text is going to be blank. And then result winner dot class list dot toggle hidden. And then results div dot class list dot toggle show winner. All right, so this is just, again, setting everything back to its original state. So let's save that and give it a try. So we pick something, we won, play again, there we go. Pick something again, we won again, play again. And a draw. Okay, so that's working. So I think the last part is just to keep score. So let's work on that next. All right, so let's go back up to our DOM again, and we're gonna grab a couple more elements from the DOM. We'll say const score number is going to equal document.query selector. And then that is score number. And then we're going to keep score. So we'll say let score equal 0, right? It's going to start at 0. So let's go down to the bottom and let's see, where are we at? Is winner, play again. Let's go. Let's just go right here after is winner. So it will say function keep score is going to be passed in a point. And then we'll say score is going to plus equal our point. And then we'll say score number dot inner text is going to equal our score. No, just score. Okay, so we're going to pass a point in. We're going to add that point to our score and then change the inner text of the score number to a score. Pretty simple. Let's do that in here. So we're going to say if we win, we're going to say keep score, and we're going to pass it a point. So we'll say 1. And if we lose, I mean, I think it's fair if we lose, we should be subtracted a point, right? So let's say keep score. If we lose, we're going to pass it -1, right? So that should be it. Let's save that, give it a try. So now it's starting at 12. Okay, let's go back to our HTML here. Let's start it at 0. Save it. All right, so it's 0. Pick, and we lost. So -1. Play again, and we won. So we're back to 0. Play again, and it's a draw. Play again. Hey, we got a point. All right. So that's all we're going to do in this project today. We're just going to do this desktop version. Like I said, if you want me to do the mobile version or the rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock version, let me know in the comments below. Let's run this project through Embold and see how that works. All right, so I've signed up for Embold, used my GitHub profile, and I uploaded the project to GitHub. So now all I have to do is select the repository that I want to add and then add it to Embold. Now it's going to automatically start scanning, and once it's done, I'll show you the results. All right, so it scanned the repository, gave me an overall rating of 4.5. It has 101 lines of executable code, and the language is JavaScript. So we can get a little bit more detail here. There were no code issues, anti-patterns, or duplicate blocks. And we can look at all of the different components here. So we only have one app.js, but if we had multiple components, obviously, we would be able to see each one individually. And so if we click on app.js, we can then even see the code. We can see any issues that might pop up. They would show up here. We can also look at partitioning. So this shows us all the different parts and pieces of our code. So we can see how everything is kind of connected. Our results connected to our winner, connected to our choices. I'm going to add another repository that's a little bit bigger. And let's see what it does with this one. So I'll show you the results as soon as it's done scanning. All right, so this one gave me a 2.82, so pretty low. Let's check it out. So we've got quite a few issues here. So let's go ahead and click on the issues and let's check this out. So the cool thing is we can create tickets straight from here. These are just medium, there's no critical issues. So let's go through these. So this one says no console. So it doesn't like the fact that we have console log. So that's fair enough. We should remove all of the console logs before we ship our code. So all of these, let's go back here. So it looks like we left in a bunch of console logs. And then we've got some undefined. Let's look at this. So it's saying that direction is not defined. So maybe we forgot to add a definition for that and we just used it straight away. So these are basic linting issues, and it's nice that it finds all of these. So if you haven't signed up for Embold yet, go ahead and do that. The link is in the description below. It's completely free, up to 100,000 lines of code. Also, be sure to check out the Embold community page where you can add comments, ask questions, and provide feedback. The link is in the description below. The link to the rock, paper, scissors repository will be in the description below as well. And let me know in the comments, have you ever used Embold or a static code generator tool before? If so, what were your use cases? And what specifically did you or didn't you like about them? That's going to be it for this video. Like this video to help me out and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this.